Hey, what's up? This is Ben with Retopo Dev, and I'm giving you my quick start guide for Clo-3D so that you can take one of our most popular blocks, the t-shirt block, and turn it into something unique while learning some simple tools that I use every single day. I've got Ellie here. Cut to the clip. And we keep it moving. So we're going to jump in and go to clo3d.com in case you haven't downloaded it yet. You can either do the free trial or pay for your subscription. Get that downloaded, and we're going to open up the software right away. If it's your first time opening it, you're going to get some user settings that pop up. The big one that I just want to mention under view controls is regular mouse is what I'll be using. So everything that I'll be describing uses those controls for navigation. So first we're going to start by just opening up an avatar. So under your library on the left here, let's go avatar. We're going to do a female and do like a crop t-shirt. And we're going to load up Grace here. And under size, you can just kind of double click here to navigate through the library. You can change from list view or icon view depending on what's easiest to see. We're going to do the Missy Straight 8, which is usually what I use for the outdoor industry. Most medium sizes fall within an ASTM Missy Straight 8. So that's kind of where my background is. So we're going to download that. If you don't have it, we're going to double click to change her size. And now we're going to quickly go to the Clo-Set Connect website to download one of our free blocks. So connect.clo-set.com. And if you just go to creator here at the top, and you can just type in retopo space dev, and you'll see us pop up. The link will also be in the description if you just want to go straight to it. You can click on our page here, and we're just going to download this block T01 Relaxed T Genderless. So click on that, it'll bring it up, and we're just going to hit add to cart. Add to cart, go to your cart, and confirm your terms of service and place the order. All right, so that'll be downloaded now. And we don't actually need to download anything. We're going to do that all in Clo. So back in Clo, we're going to go to the little two icons here in the library, which shows you everything from Connect. You can also search from this, but I find it works better to do it from the web. Do My Items, go to your folder here and scroll down until you find it. So here is our t-shirt we just downloaded. Right click and add to workspace. Just going to add and hit OK. And that'll bring it up in the 3D window and the 2D window. Now let's quickly talk about navigation here. So in the 3D window, you right click to rotate. You middle mouse click, which if you don't have a middle mouse button, it's super helpful to get a little bit nicer mouse. This center wheel not only scrolls in and out, but if you click and hold, it's actually a button. So when you click and hold that, it allows us to pan around the space, wheel in and out to zoom, and then your left click is going to be all of your action items. So with everything already selected, it's a similar controls for the 2D window other than right click doesn't actually do anything. So middle mouse to pan. We have everything selected. If you don't have everything, just click, left click and drag. And we're going to rotate over, grab this little gizmo here and slide it down just so that way it's kind of covering the body as best we can. Now at this point, before we simulate anything, I want to talk through particle distance really quick. This is basically the resolution of the mesh and the garment. A lower number means higher poly count, which means it's going to run slower on your computer. 20 is like a really safe number for most systems. You want to bump it down as you get into more finer details and all those little creases will start showing up. So we're just going to bump this from 5 up to 20. Hit enter, and there's Ellie. She's pissed off now. Someone has upset the dogs. Let's go check it out. All right, we're going to keep moving now. The dogs have called off the FedEx man, so we are safe now. So now that we've got our particle distance set to 20, we're just going to press this little arrow up in the top. You can also press spacebar, which is going to simulate. So that's what I'm going to do off and on. I'm just going to press spacebar, and you'll see it drape onto the model here. You'll know you have it working when there's the little hand that shows up. As you decrease that particle distance, increase your poly count. It's going to be slower to pull on. So if you don't have a really powerful system, keep that number up at 20. We're going to press spacebar to stop. Now we're going to go to our transform pattern tool here. So there's the A key for transform pattern. If you just click and drag, that's going to move a whole pattern piece. If you press Z, which is the edit pattern, that's like an individual point, kind of like Illustrator with direct select. So we're just going to zoom in, and we're actually going to crop this whole t-shirt. So we're going to select this line on the front hem and this line on the back hem by shift clicking. And then we're just going to left click and drag it straight up to about there, let's just say. And you can see it's editing in real time on the model. So I want it to be a little bit more of a crop. So we're going to bring it up further, and we're good there. So we're going to press spacebar, let that simulate. And I like how that's looking. So now we're going to move on to kind of an offset pattern line. That's something if you want to add like a little hem or any simple piece off of a neckline, it follows that curve really nicely. So again, with Z transform pattern tool, we're going to select our sleeve hem here, right click and offset as internal line. And we're going to bring up a little menu. We're going to do a 35mm offset and hit OK. And because the way we've built these patterns on here, everything's mirrored. So the front, back, left, and right are all mirrored. So you only have to do it on one side, which is super nice and really efficient. Now that that's selected, it's still highlighted yellow. If it's not highlighted yellow, again, Z, click on that line, right click on the line, and we're gonna hit cut and sew. That's gonna cut the piece apart and sew it back together really easily for us. And you can see over here, as we simulate, you can kind of see that seam has ended up adding into the sleeve cuff. All right, now we're going to move on to adding a little chest pocket. So for that, we're going to be using the internal polygon line tool, which is G, or this little outline box here. So we're going to zoom in onto the chest, and we're just going to add it right about here. And we can move this once we're done and reshape it. So don't be afraid if you totally botch it, which I might do here, but we're gonna do our best. As you see, there's nice little guidelines that help keep it centered. So we are you re-click on that end point and that finishes off. If you're doing something that ends just like on a edge of a pattern piece or something, you double click and that'll stop the line from kind of finishing it off. You can see over here on the pattern window on this 3D viewer, the pattern piece is outlined, but now it disappears. So I just want to talk through this little garment display tool set here. So show internal lines, we'll show those on your 3D window. And that allows us to kind of see it before we do anything and move pieces around. All right, now that we have our 3D internal lines shown in our view, I'm seeing that I don't really like the pocket size and placement. So we're just going to quickly fix that. So using the same tools that we've been using, our A transform pattern tool, we're going to select with left click and just kind of drag this pocket up a little bit higher. It'll update for us. And I'm okay with that, but the pocket overall is too tall as well. So with Z, I'm going to click off of the pattern so nothing's selected. Click on these two lines and drag upwards. And that looks much better to me. Using A, we're going to select that pattern piece, right click and clone as pattern and drag that over here. And you'll notice over here in the 3D window, it's created that new piece that's kind of off to the side, and it changed it to a new fabric and it added a new one. So we're just going to have that pattern selected with A, and over the fabric properties here, we're just going to choose this little assign selected pattern, which is that little arrow, and that's just going to put that fabric onto that piece. And we no longer need this fabric, so we're just going to press the trash can and delete that to keep our file nice and clean. Now I'm going to show you how to use the sewing tools. There's a couple different ones. There is the segment sewing, which is N, and that's just going to sew like a piece to a piece. So if you have the same exact line length from main point to main point, that one's great to use. And we're just going to use that really quick on this left side. So click, and you'll see it's updating in the 3D window. I'm also going to show you the other one really quick, which is M on the keyboard. And that's the M and N segment sewing. And that lets us sew, the M is going to be this guy here, which is the free sewing. And that lets us sew kind of along a point. So if you have multiple points on one line and 2 points on another line, this one's super helpful. So to use that, we're going to click on the first point, kind of drag it around, and you'll see it going around the point. Click to finish that one, and then we're going to go to our other side and do the same thing. And you'll notice a little blue dot is appearing, and that shows you the exact line length of that first segment. And then just click to finish. So now we have all of our pieces sewn, and you can use this little edit sewing or B to see what each stitch is by clicking on it and see what's sewn to what. So that's super helpful. Ideally, this whole thing would probably be sewn in one segment, so I would use the that M sewing tool, but I just wanted to show you both of those tools. Now, right click, you have a couple options. You can either drag this over and arrange it. I'm actually just going to right click in the 3D window and click superimpose over, and that's just going to automatically orient it over the piece. We can press F to zoom in on it, and it kind of makes it nice and easy and quick to work that way, and spacebar to simulate. Now we have our pocket attached there, and I'm going to turn off these internal lines again just because I don't like how they look. So we've got our piece there, we're ready to go. I'm going to add a little offset just to add some detail. With Z, click on that top line, right click, offset as internal line again. We're just going to do 20 here and hit OK. And then I'm just going to right click and cut and sew again. So that just adds sort of like a little extra seam there. Again, just adding some interest. Now that we have all of our main details finished, we're going to add some top stitching just to add some details. So we're going to go to our top stitching layout here on our object browser. And over in our library, we'll click on the little star, hardware and trims, and go to top stitch. And this is going to show you a bunch of standard ISO, like actual stitch types that are used in the industry. And you can download whichever ones you want. I'm going to be using the 3 needle 5 thread cover stitch, and that has a looper on the top and the bottom. And what's cool about these is they give you the top and like the inside and outside look. So it's really pretty accurate and makes your job a lot easier. So we're just going to click and drag that one over here. Again, use whichever one you want, download them, and then just drag and drop them into here. Now over on your property editor, you've got a couple, quite a few different attributes and properties you can play with. I always turn mine to texture from OBJ. I find that the normal maps start to interfere with each other on OBJ, and I don't feel like you get that much extra image quality out of the OBJ version. Play with it however you want. There's the top and bottom, so 1 is the top on these, 2 is the bottom. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom and select 3D, and that gives you a 3D normal map underneath the stitch that gives it a little bit more depth. And on number 2, I'm going to do the same thing. And we are going to add a color to this. So scrolling down to this little color here, it's on white right now. Just click on that. I'm going to use my eyedropper and select this same color as the body here. And I'm going to drag it just a little bit darker so that way it kind of pops a little bit more. And I'm going to copy this by just selecting the hex code here, Control C, hit done, and then we're going to go to number 2 stitch here and do the same exact thing. Click on that color, and I'm going to paste that, Control V, right into there and hit done. So I'm going to use this 3 needle 5 thread cover stitch across everything, and we are just going to use this tool here, the free top stitch. You can also do segment, top stitch, whichever works best for you. Because everything's pretty simple, we'll use that segment, and you can just click on your piece there, and you can see it's right on the edge, and I actually want that to be offset so that way it's kind of like a turned back hem. So we're just going to select again up in this property editor here, and we can change our offset here. So it's 1/16 right now. We're going to go to like 5/16. And that gives us a nice kind of look right there. And you can see from the inside, you can see the inside cover as well, which is cool. So we're going to add that to the back hem, and that'll align perfectly. And like I said earlier, we're on mirror, so everything is going from left to right, which is super helpful. And I'm going to add it to the collars, and I'm going to add it to the shoulder seams here. Now let's say that we want this to be like right on the edge here, because this isn't really that realistic looking. So we're just going to select this, hit copy. That'll give us a new version, and we're going to offset it by 1/16 of an inch. And using the segment edit top stitch, we're just going to select the one here and drag down to the other stitch, and that'll bring it nice and close into here. Now, as you can see, it's kind of folding over, so we're going to play with that offset until we're happy with how it looks. And 3/16. So that 1/8 is looking pretty good. Space bar to kind of get that to sync again. And then we're going to do the same thing on the back. So again, using our edit top stitch, click on that, and top stitch property, choose the one that you want. And that'll get it all updated. So now we're pretty much set. So we're going to zoom out, make sure all our pattern pieces are here, using A, hide, select everything. And we're going to hit the particle distance down to 5 again. Again, if this is too much for your computer, you can play around with it. 7's pretty good as well. 5, enter, and space bar to simulate that. All right, now I don't want her in this like T pose. It's great to work in, but for a final render, I don't want that. So we're going to go over to our avatar in our library, select the female model, or if you're working on a male model, whichever it is. Pose, and then we're just going to do this kind of standard pose that's included with it, which is just kind of like a arms down pose. And then once she's done that, it'll automatically simulate while it's doing that. If it's too slow, again, bump up the particle distance. I'm going to press spacebar one more time to simulate. And at this point, if you want to play around with anything to just kind of style it, you can, kind of like pulling some things around, and if anything got caught or is funky, fix that now. And that looks pretty good. I'm going to hide the model. You can keep it if you want, but up in this view here, the avatar display, click show avatar, and that will get rid of her. And then we're going to render it. So render, render, and that'll bring up a new render window. If you click the little this was kind of an earlier one I did, so ignore that. If you click the little refresh here, it'll turn on the render engine for you. It'll update the scene, make sure all the textures are kind of working. And we kind of have the first version here. You'll see it could be pretty slow for you. So again, just kind of depends on what computer you're working with. We're gonna hit stop, and we're gonna go to this little light icon real quick. I'm not going to talk through all of this right now, but I'm going to give you on our website, there's a link in the description to go to, and you can download our lighting setup for this tutorial. So you're just going to click open. You're going to download that from our website, and then you can see the simple product lighting 01. Navigate to that, select it, hit open, and that's going to load in sort of a preset that we've already made for this. And then under our render properties, you can change kind of the pixel size. It's probably at a pretty small resolution right now, so I bumped that up. Again, the bigger this is, the longer it's going to take, but the higher quality it is. So I've got 2048 by 2048. I like squares for just most things. You can turn on transparent background, whatever you want. And we're going to click that refresh button again with that new lighting setup. See how it looks, and then we will click that final render button. I am pretty happy with how it looks. I think it's looking really nice. So we'll hit stop. Once you are happy with where you're at under your image video properties, make sure you name this. So we're just going to call this t-shirt tutorial. And we are going to find our file path that you want, select that folder. You can change turnable image however many you want. You can do a just like flat image, animation, that's where all of that comes in. So we're just going to do 4 images, front, back, and 2 sides, and 360-degree rotation for the total, and hit play, and that's going to do your final render output. So we will let that do it, and we will be right back. All right, once you're done, you'll get that little dialog box. You can open the folder, look at that final render, and you are good to go. We've walked through quite a few tools, tried to get you as much information as I could, as quickly as I could. Hopefully you had a good time and made a fun little render of a t-shirt of some kind, added your own little flash and details onto it. If you have any questions, drop some comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for joining.